and you just do what you've got to do to make ends meet. Sometimes you don't even need to make ends meet, but it becomes addictive. When you
It's so easy, right?
when you divorce sex from any emotion and you see it as an activity, why not get paid for that activity? And so this is what culture has done. It's slowly and steadily taken women to this point. First thing was to create the idea of sex before marriage. Then it was the idea of a spontaneous sex. Then it was the idea of one night stands. Then it's now the idea of, why are you doing one night stands? Get paid for it. If you don't care about the guy, you're never going to see him again. Why would you waste your body? You might as well make money. So society has conditioned us to get more and more provocative.
But isn't prostitution the oldest business in the world?
It was for people who are desperate. Now it's for people who just want to get their nails done.
Wow. I mean, you know, one thing I've seen since I've come to Dubai is the sugar baby lifestyle here.
Yeah, it's so real.
It's so, like, I'd always see like YouTube videos about it.
No, you'll see it now, like when you go to Starbucks, you'll see the sugar baby.
Yeah. But I'd always watch like a YouTube video, I'm a sugar baby and this is what I got.
And I thought it was some hidden thing, and I was like, oh, I wonder what it's like now.
I
It's
wonder
just
what
like,
it's
oh, she's right there. Yeah, just ask her. Yeah.
And it's so glorified here.
Well, it's
Or here, or around the world. Forget here.
I think it's in every
here.
big city, even Miami. But this is in cultures where you minimize the emotional attachment to sex, and men. This is another thing men are delusional about. They think women can't have sex without emotion. Yes, they can. How do you think prostitutes have done it their whole lives? They can when they decide to monetize it.
But I feel like it affects women because I listen to a lot of Jordan Peterson. Shout out to JP. Absolutely love
Man
you.
like JP. Man like. Yeah.
And he spoke a lot about women and you know, sexual attachment and stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like women that are in that industry or they're in that space, they have more higher chance of like suicide or depression.
Well, and men and women. Here's the thing, we've gotten so used to the idea that men and women are different when it comes to sex, and men can have sex with everybody and anyone, and women can have sex with just one man, and or you know. But here's the thing, it's psychological for both people. Ask men who cheat; they're usually going through an ego boost. They need an ego boost, or they feel unappreciated by their wife, or they've just lost their job and they need an escapism. It's psychological. If it was biological, they'd have sex with their wife all day, every day, but they don't. So it's a case of there's an escapism. There's some psychological escapism. Now, for women who do it, it's definitely a sense of she's met people who have used her body so many times against her will that now she's trying to take back control. There's a reason why sex abuse leads to prostitution at a really high rate. They find that sex workers, I'm sure it's different now, but the last time they looked at the data before it became glorified, sex workers have a real history of childhood abuse. And what happens is when you've been abused or molested as a child, the control has been taken out of your hands. Somebody's accessed your body and violated it without your permission. So to re-establish control, the person who's been a victim starts to then sell their body. And so you can access me on my terms now. And it's a form of regaining control. But until you undo the trauma, it's going to happen again and again.
Wow. So
how do we get from sugar babies to this?
Because
I'm so sorry.
It's fine,
but there is an element of that.
Yeah,
I would imagine they were violated at some point. And I actually think it doesn't even need a violation. I actually think it's the culture of losing your virginity at a young age.
Really?
Yeah. I think that the reason why we have so many sugar babies now and so much is they lost their virginity at a young age. I used to be a teacher. So I would have Monday mornings of girls coming into my office and being like, oh, miss, I need to get an abortion quickly, and oh, this awful stuff like this. And they would lose their virginity at such a young age, and the advent of Snapchat meant that 11-year-olds were sending nudes, and it's like, 11 sending nudes, what are you talking? I didn't even know what that was a thing. But when you do that at such a young age, there's no way you don't experience shame and guilt. Impossible. Because nobody looks at losing their virginity at 12, 13 years old and thinking, yeah, that was a good idea. So to re-establish control over that experience is to then monetize sex and make sex feel like it's just a job. And then you don't feel so guilty and ashamed of what you did when you were young.
So do you think that's where OnlyFans comes in? There's
I
a lot
would,
of young girls in there.
I would love to do a study on this, but OnlyFans girls,
Please do
I
it.
would love to. Yeah, I would love to. Who wants to fund me? I would love to do that. where it's OnlyFans girls, I can imagine they lost their virginity either non-consensually or too young. I don't believe it can be consensual when you're young.
How young is too young now?
Well, the thing is, maybe because I worked with kids and I see they're kids. They're so small. So even 15, 16, which is the legal age, they're kids. There's no decision you can make at 16 and still make the same decision at 30. It's too young.
Yeah, but I could argue that, like, someone in a village of Pakistan, she's got married at 16 and she's...
But she didn't lose her virginity. Somebody invested in her. There's a self-esteem attached to that. Somebody's taken the time to marry you and invest in you, and you're having a whole courtship, and there's a wedding, and there's a meher, a dowry. So there's no lack of self-esteem. But a 15-year-old who's been had sex in the back of a park by a guy that she just wanted to like her more, and it's not really because she loves him, there's a completely different self-worth that comes attached to that.
Interesting.
And it's the culture